7 p.m., however, not officially called to order, as we only have 4 board members present that I can see, and now Mr. Lee makes it a quorum. Thank you so much, and welcome back, board. And again, thank you for your dedication and commitment to Wake Forest Charter Academy and to the board. Any public comment guidelines pertaining to any board email requests, Madam Secretary?
No guests to my knowledge.
All righty, thank you, and no email requests.
No email requests. No,
thank you very much. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam President.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll begin with Hilda Parlay.
Present.
Marilyn Bonnet.
Present.
Mark Marley is not present. Selena Gary is present. Nicholas Gourneau is not present. Scott Dable.
Present.
Scott Dable is present. And Willie Thompson is not present at this time.
I'm present.
Mr. Thompson is here.
Mr. Thompson is present. Welcome.
All righty.
Okay. Madam President, we do have a quorum for this meeting.
All righty. Thank you very much, board. Approval of the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry.
Non-board members.
Excuse
Should I continue with the non-board members?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Okay. Brandy Gill.
Present.
Brandy Gill is present. Kaditra Cooper.
Present.
Cooper is present. Donna Rasco.
Donna is present.
Donna is present. And I believe that are all of our non-members attending. I don't believe we have any guests at this point.
Not at this time.
Not at this time. So, Madam President, that concludes the roll call.
Thank you very much. Approval of the agenda, please. And thank you, Kaditra and Elisa, for getting it out early, as usual. Approval of the agenda.
Madam, it's Marilyn.
Madam.
I move approval of the agenda of the special meeting for December 16.
Is there a second?
Madam President, it's Scott. I'll second that.
It has been moved by Marilyn Burnett and seconded by Scott Dable that we approve the agenda for this special meeting on December 16th, 2020. Discussion? If not, all those in favor, roll call, please. Madam Secretary.
Hilda Parlay.
Approves.
Hilda Parlay approves. Marilyn Bonnet.
Approve.
Marilyn Bonnet approves. Selena Gary approves. Nicholas Gourneau. I'm sorry, Nicholas is not here. Scott Dable.
Approves.
Scott Dable approves. Willie Thompson.
Approved.
Willie Thompson approves. Madam President, we have a unanimous decision to approve the agenda for this special meeting on 12/16/2020.
Thank you very much, and thank you, board. Management reports, Principal Gill, please.
Hello, everyone. Khadija, do you want me to show my screen, or are you okay to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint?
I can go ahead and share my screen. I think first I need to give like a little intro because your principal report is also relevant to discussion item 5B, correct?
Yes.
All right. So what I'll do is give a little intro to the board regarding this conversation. So board members, you're aware that I sent you all an email, I think it was on Friday, and it had a few different documents attached to it. But the purpose of that email was to provide you information regarding a recommendation that NHA is making regarding students returning to school January 11th, which will be after the winter break. So on January 11th, the recommendation is to have students in grades K through 5 return to school in person. It will be 5 days per week. And in addition to that, parents will also have the virtual select option available to them for those who do not feel comfortable with their students returning in person. And the reason for that is that we're seeing where students that are in younger grades, K through 5, are struggling with the virtual learning platform. So that pretty much is why this recommendation was opened up. So for students in grades 6 through 8, they will still remain hybrid and also have the virtual select option. So today, Principal Gill will speak to that as well, and I am available to answer any questions that, that you may have regarding any of the information I sent to you on Friday.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cooper.
Once again, good evening, everyone. My presentation has been ready for a little bit of time there. Today is actually December the 16th. So I do want to just again, thank you for getting together and reiterate a little bit of what Khadija was saying is that, you know, K-5 classrooms for Plan A, 5 days a week, face-to-face instruction. And our middle school students will remain hybrid. All families will still have the virtual option. And typically the way we've communicated that is that parents can transition between virtual and hybrid at the end of a trimester. The end of our trimester is on March the 3rd. March the 2nd, the end of the trimester. March the 3rd is the beginning of the third trimester. Just a little intro. I want it to be noted that among the NHA community, 24 of our schools have been running full in person for most of our school year, including in areas that are with high cases across the country. While we know that COVID will disrupt learning in our classrooms from time to time, many of the schools and classrooms have been able to offer quality in-person instruction for their students.
Principal Gill, tell me when you would like me to advance the slides.
I sure will. So far, NHA, again, has very few instances of COVID-19 that have been transmitted within the 96 buildings that we have. And at Wake Forest, so far, that has been 3 cases among the adults in the building and 2 confirmed cases within our student population. Next slide, please. While research suggests that we wear face coverings, we do have regular sanitation, cleaning, hand washing, and grouping students in cohorts have been the most effective way for students to stay clear of COVID. In addition to that, in our hybrid, we have our deep cleanings on Wednesday when our students go into remote, as well on Fridays at the end of the day, so that the building is cleaned and closed for the weekend. And those have been things that have been highly effective for keeping our cases down. However, we do, if you think back to our last board meeting, you do know that we've have some academic concern with our students during this transition time. Next slide, please. Given the evidence that transmission is less likely for young scholars, again, the proposal for K-5 was 5 days a week, which means students and staff are not returning with a 6-foot physical distancing in those K-5 classrooms. We will continue to do social distancing possibly at 3 feet. We will continue to wear masks. We will continue our evening cleaning and our Friday cleanings, deep cleanings. However, if we do our Plan A with return for K-5 classrooms, they will lose the deep cleaning on Wednesdays. That will continue in the middle school. So, you know, half of our building will be cleaned on deep cleaned throughout the week, and then K-5 will be in on Wednesday, and their deep cleaning will be on Fridays, and regular cleaning in the evenings. Next slide, please. There's a little information about why we want to keep our middle schoolers in hybrid, and it is hard to predict what is going to be the outcome for the rest of the year, but I do want to share a little bit of data with you guys regarding where we currently stand and how our families have handled COVID and hybrid learning. Next slide, please. So here's a quick chart about our attendance and where we currently stand. At the beginning of trimester, each trimester, each family has the option to change their learning model if the numbers permit, because currently right now, classrooms cannot go over 50% capacity. So from trimester 1 to trimester 2, our virtual enrollment increased by 23 students. Hybrid group A population decreased by 10 students, and hybrid group B decreased by 17 students. Next slide, thank you.
Mhm.
We did survey the staff, and I gave the same exact survey that Dr. Brown sent out in the beginning of the year. The first question reads, I agree with staying with hybrid instruction. 51 staff members responded to the survey. At the beginning of the year, 98% or 50 people said yes to hybrid instruction. 2%, one person said no. In December, the same survey was given. 51 staff members again responded, with 90% or 46 people said yes to continue with hybrid instruction, and 9.8% or 5 said no, they did not agree with staying with hybrid instruction. Next slide, please. Question 2 asks, I agree with moving to Plan A. At the beginning of the year, 50 teachers responded to this question. 88% or 44 teachers said no to Plan A, and 12% or 6 said yes for Plan A. In December, the same question was posed to the staff, and 48 people responded, with 87% or 42 said no to Plan A, while 12.5 or 6 staff members said yes to Plan A. Next slide, please.
Principal Gill, before we move to the next slide, can you repeat those numbers again? I'm sorry. For
No
the
problem.
respondents.
No problem. At the beginning of the year, 88%, 44 teachers said no to Plan A. 12%, 6 teachers said yes to Plan A. In December, 48 teachers or staff responded. 87.5% or 42 said no to Plan A, while 12.5% or 6 staff members in the blue area agreed to Plan A.
Thank you.
Yes. And just a little bit about our classroom coverage, so that you kind of know what's happening inside of our building. We currently have 4 K-5 teachers that are designated as virtual only teachers. And this is for a combination of reasons. We currently have 4 substitutes on our roster that we share with other schools, whether it's a Wake County school or another NHA school. We've put out there and we're advertising for more substitute teachers, but right now we just have the 4. I do want to say that moving to Plan A is a major adjustment for our staff, and that Plan A, to be successful, I am predicting that we will need to do some hiring if we move to Plan A. In preparation for that, also, there is a decrease in our dean support. As you know, we have 2 deans that are going out on maternity leave very soon. And so I just want to bring all of that to your attention as we think about this transition. Typically, we transition at the end of a trimester. And so this will be a very quick turnaround. We can definitely make it happen if the board so agrees, but I do want us to take all of the information that we have into consideration. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Principal Gill, you just mentioned, should we go in or decide on Plan A, that there would be staff challenges and that we would have to hire more teachers. How many would you estimate that we would have to hire
So
more
currently
teachers?
looking at all of that will go into, we would have to definitely know the number of families that want to transition, of course, back to a hybrid if it's open in K-5.
Mhm.
I am predicting right now at least one staff hire, possibly two. One of our teachers is currently out of state. She agreed to stay on, but she's also on understanding that if we do move to Plan A and we don't have the virtual numbers to keep her on, that we will be looking to hire in her position.
Okay, so 1 to 2.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned, of course, the deans, the two who are expecting. So how will you handle the support that the deans have if we would not have two? Are you going to hire more deans or have deans serving interim positions? So
No,
how will you
ma'am.
get that support?
No, ma'am. It will just be myself and Dean Khan. We do have one teacher that is stepping up to help twice a week. But again, with her stepping in to help, that means she's coming out of her classroom to do so.
Mm.
We were not granted, like a substitute dean, I guess, or interim dean to work with us. Our leadership team of teachers will be helping at the grade levels to help support, their colleagues. But it will be challenging, but we will definitely work through it. And we've been prepping and supporting and telling the staff areas that we will need additional support so they are ready when we come back in January.
Okay, so what is NHA saying about that?
In regards to an interim dean,
Right, or getting the teachers who have to leave their classrooms. Are they willing to offer some kind of support?
at this time, there is a possible of a stipend for the teacher that has decided to step up and support in her classroom. And of course, that teacher will have a sub in her classroom that we pay for.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Okay.
support we have right now. DSQ Perfect will also be stepping into lend helping hands from time to time.
From time to time. And he already has a full plate with the number of
Yes, ma'am.
schools that he is responsible for.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
another thing you mentioned, if we go into Plan A, then of course the social distancing would be reduced to 3 feet. And the mask will still be worn, and the Wednesday cleaning goes away, and the cleaning would only be held on Fridays and evenings.
Yes.
Obviously, no deep cleaning on Wednesdays. All
Yes.
right, other board members, chime in. Let's
Yep.
start with you, Willie. What are your thoughts? Unmute, Willie, please.
I guess I was wondering if that 3 feet is within guidelines, within state guidelines or school board guidelines. I mean, what brought on the 3 foot change?
So my understanding, and I believe was part of the packet that went out to the board, was that is the new, if you're wearing a mask, that the 3 feet is scientifically proven, is what was shared with us. Within, I guess, a tighter setting. And when you can't keep the 6 feet, they ask that you try to keep 3 feet with a mask on, covering your nose and your mouth.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And please remember, in our full classrooms, our classrooms will have about 28 kids with desks and chairs in them.
Yeah, that's another thing, a full class, not 50%.
Yes.
And it would be interesting to know how many parents would opt for the virtual.
Yes.
We could have less, let's say, than 28 or the typical number enrolled at a particular time.
Yes.
All right, who else? Willie, anything else?
No, no, not at this time.
All right, who
I
else?
guess, another thing, I'm kind of concerned about the reduction in cleaning, though. What brought that on?
So the reduction in cleaning comes because for K-5, if we come back Plan A or some other version, if the board so chooses, then Wednesday is our remote day. And because we have Wednesdays currently as a remote day, our Plan A would say that we would have 5 days a week of instruction for our K-5 kids. So they will still have a cleaning on Wednesday evening, but not the full deep clean that we currently have with a full whole sanitation of the classroom that happens on Wednesdays, just because, excuse me, the cleaning staff would have less time to, sanitize the building.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Board?
So Principal Gill, it's Scott. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Scott. How are you?
Good. So 2 questions, kind of going back to the cases of COVID. I guess my first question is, did we have any cases in K through 5, right? So it sounds like we had a few cases. I'm just curious how many, if any, were in that K through 5 classroom?
Okay. My numbers, I will tell you that I received student population numbers and not boiled down to just K-5. So I could not honestly answer that, to say it was specifically K-5 population.
Okay. And I asked a question just based off of, kind of NHA saying the probability of spread in that K through 5 group is significantly less. I'm just curious to see if that's what we've been seeing. The second question would be, and it sounds like we didn't do a parent survey, so we don't really know how many continue to opt virtual versus come back. And it may be worth doing because it sounds like we don't necessarily have the capacity at teacher level and dean level to support it if there was a huge demand to come back. And then finally, going back to what Mr. Thompson said, so the 3 feet, I find that interesting. How are we going to handle like lunches when masks aren't on? So I understand that having a mask in 3 feet is okay, but how are we going to handle lunchtime when masks needs to come off to eat?
So lunch is in the classroom for our students currently, and lunch would stay in the classroom. So the cohort of students that are together all day would stay together. In the winter, in the spring, I would say like students can go outside. We have a lovely picnic area. Teachers would take them outside when masks are, have to be off. But in the winter and the cold months, that's just not going to happen. So you are, closer in tight quarters with your mask off, eating your lunch for 15, 20 minutes. Depending on how long it takes a student to eat, we do instruct students once they're done with their lunch to put their mask back on. But you are correct. They will have their mask off, lunch in the classroom.
Yeah, so that's the one concern I have. And then for Khaditra, so I know we talked about kind of a coming back plan, and in that last package it was COVID cases, and if they go up, then obviously that plan was going to go out the window. I've got to imagine, based off of what I'm hearing in the news, that everything's going up, but yet we're coming back to a full time. Can you maybe elaborate on the decision to do that outside of maybe what we saw in the presentation?
As of right now, pretty much the information that I provided you is pretty much all that I have right now. Now, if anything's shift immediately as it does, I will notify the board. But as of right now, I've still been, asked to move forward with this conversation.
But we don't necessarily have the numbers that you shared, I guess 2 months ago. There was very specific criteria about returning to school depending on, again, certain criteria that we don't necessarily have today.
Oh, the COVID-19 data?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I can pull that up from the dashboard if it would help for this meeting.
I'm just curious to know, have cases gone up or have they gone down from the last data that we've seen?
In all honesty, I'm sure they have gone up, but I will definitely look that up for you. Give me one moment.
Ms. Parlay, this is Donna. May
Yes.
I make a comment?
Yes, Attorney Rasco, please.
One of the things, just in general, I think the board has heard this from me before, is just a reminder that the board is required to consider and follow the guidance from the Department of Public Instruction, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and other agencies that are referenced in Lighting Our Way Forward. And the materials that I see in the packet from NHA are helpful. But I would just alert the board that this seems to be, and perhaps understandably so, some general comments. I noticed that they specifically note national and international data and things of that sort, and don't mean to sort of, dispute that information, but would just encourage the board that you have a responsibility, obviously, to consider the North Carolina materials. And I believe I've seen that Khaditra is, and that may be what you guys are referring to right now, that Khaditra is looking at, has been providing you some update information periodically, perhaps even on a weekly basis, about that data. So I would encourage the board to keep that in mind. And on the issue of social distancing, I would say to you that I have heard a number of variations on that. And I don't know if Ms. Gill or Khaditra can speak to this. Don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'm trying to find it in Lighting Our Way Forward right now. You might recall that Lighting Our Way Forward describes the recommendations and requirements for both Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. And I'm looking at the Plan A, social distancing and minimizing exposure. And what I see right now, and please, if anybody else has already looked at this or has it available, correct me if I'm wrong, but the DHHS requirements that appear in this document for Plan A continue to refer to 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me share just a moment. It says, mark 6 feet of spacing to remind students and staff to always stay 6 feet apart in lines and at other times when they may congregate.
Duly noted, Attorney Rasco. I recall that as well.
And there, I don't want to take up all your time to kind of read all of that, because obviously there's a healthy amount of detail here, but I do see that, and I'm also aware that some people have referenced other guidance, such as I think some pediatric organization that says 3 feet is sufficient. And again, there are a lot of people that sort of have offered opinions and whatnot, and considering that can be helpful. But I would caution the board to be mindful of again, the Lighting Our Way Forward information. There's also some additional information here about minimizing opportunities for sustained exposure, which is the 15 minutes or more within 6 feet. So admittedly, there's some variations, and it makes sense that the more kids you have in the building, the more challenging that's going to be. But we still have to be mindful of these requirements. And I'll just stop there. I want to see how your conversation goes. There may be some other pieces that I can offer as well, but I know you're trying to go around and get board member input and comments. So I'll just leave that there.
Thank you so much, Attorney Rasco. Very valuable information, of course. All right, board member, who would like to be next? Marilyn or
Madam, it's Marilyn, I'll go.
All righty, Marilyn.
From the presentation, did we not see that 97.5% of teachers are not in favor of going back face-to-face the whole school? And that's Plan A, right? Didn't I see that 97.5% of teachers are not in favor?
So
80,
in our
80
December survey, 87.5, 42 teachers said no to Plan A. 12.5 or 6 teachers agreed with Plan A.
Okay, so I was remembering higher numbers, but 87 is still a pretty high number.
Yes.
So my concern would be having teachers feel coerced. And, we've had quite a few discussions about teacher turnover. I don't see an answer, but that's my question. How would that go when teachers don't want to do it?
So the answer to that is that there are options out there for teachers, and the turnover is a concern of mine as well, because we do have teachers that may decide to take leave or, not to come back at all. And so that's why I bring up the numbers of substitutes, because we do only have 4. And right now, with 4 teachers being virtual and having medical leave for that, and the one that's out of town, there is a possibility that, we may be looking at high turnover numbers, and trying to, when teachers have other options. And one of the things that I was told when I'm coming on from you guys is that you wanted to try to keep people in. I did ask the teachers what will help you feel safe, and in addition to this survey, and they really are not comfortable with coming back at this time, as you can see in the survey. But they want to be with kids. They understand that face-to-face instruction is the best, and so they did offer some other alternatives. But right now, I cannot give a definite number. I can only speculate how many we would have. But things that teachers ask for are things like plexiglass shields to go on their desk. And, they're concerned about trying to keep their classrooms clean, because the cleaning would just happen in the evening. And, the Wednesday cleaning is going to go away as well. So that was a good question. I just don't have all the information to answer that, because I wanted the teachers to step away and just kind of think about it and wait for the board's decision before having those conversations.
All righty, thank you, Principal Gill and Madam Vice President. Anything else, Madam Vice President?
For me, that was number 1. So.
All righty, thank you. Ms. Gary, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome.
Principal Gill, I'm a bit concerned about planning to hire substitutes. What have we done? We're talking about starting this the beginning of January, and we're 1 week away from Christmas. And where are we looking to try to get substitute teachers at this point? My second thought is we don't have a good handle on how many parents. I know that you've been getting some feedback from parents, especially from the K-5 parents, that they would want to see kids back in school. But with what's happening, with what happened over Thanksgiving and the number of cases that have skyrocketed in this area, and now we're coming upon Christmas and people are going to be getting together again, we can expect that there's going to be another increase in COVID cases after the Christmas holiday. And we're thinking about opening the schools on January 11th. Might that be too soon? Might we need just a little more time to get our ducks in a row in terms of hiring teachers, knowing how many teachers we need, knowing what the numbers are, and also knowing what the state of North Carolina is going to do. Because, the school board has been meeting, the Wake County School Board has been meeting for the last few days. And it looks like they're prepared to go to all virtual in January.
Yes. So for your first question was the substitute teachers.
Right.
We have been advertising for substitute teachers since the start of the school year. That is advertised. We have signs out in front of the school for that you can come in or go on our website. We have also NHA is sourcing for substitutes. My last conversation with Ms. Ray was that right now we have the 4 in the queue that are solid. And that is not substituting every single day. I think we have one substitute that is available every single day. And, you know, substituting is a flexible position, so people make their own schedule. For the second part of your question, we did not survey parents at this time. We just had the enrollment numbers for you guys. But just to reiterate, it's that when I came on board at Wake Forest and we transitioned over to trimester 2, at that time I was kind of stepping in the middle of the deans and Dr. Brown figuring out numbers. And there were many parents that were opting back into virtual from hybrid with the concern of high numbers. At any time right now, parents can opt into virtual. It's just going over to hybrid that's a little harder. And what we have found is that more of our families are opting into the virtual academy, and because of their concern in the community with numbers. And I think your last comment was regarding what are some of our neighboring counties are doing. Yes, I know that they've been talking, and I've been trying to catch everything on the news, but we do have neighboring counties that are doing likewise of us right now, and they are going virtual, some till I think further in January. I want to say closer to the 20th, like we are, and then coming back to make decisions regarding moving forward or staying remote. I hope that I answered most of your questions there.
Yeah,
Did I give you enough information? Do you have anything else for me?
just that if we knew how many parents would be willing to bring their kids back on January the 11th, that would help us know how many teachers we need.
Yes. Yeah, and right now we do have all of our teachers willing to stay on. I bring up that our K-3 classrooms have at least one teacher that is virtual to manage our virtual academy. And within that, 4 teachers that are virtual, we do have one that is out of state and 2 that have medical notices. And I don't know what they will do. So that being said, I know that if our virtual numbers decrease at certain grade levels, that I would have to definitely look at hiring for my out-of-state teacher, because, you know, she would no longer be able to teach out of state if people are not opting into virtual. And our transition from trimester 1 to trimester 2, like I said, we had our virtual enrollment increased by 23 students.
All righty, thank you very much, Principal Gill. Anything else, Madam Secretary? Or any
I'm
other
fine.
member?
That's all for now.
All righty, thank you, Principal Gill. Is there
Yes.
anything else that you need to add for your report before we move on?
No, I believe that is it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. All right, our discussion
I have
items.
one question, Madam President.
Oh, yes, Mr. Thompson, yes.
Principal Gill, I'm listening to all this and I'm wondering with all of the obstacles, some of the obstacles that you say you're going to encounter with 80-something% of the teachers opting to stay virtual and needing extra teachers and all this. We're talking about right now, we're in December the 16th, and you're talking about going full, 5 days a week in January 11th. Is that going to be enough time for you to meet all these obstacles that you have as far as trying to find extra teachers if you need them, trying to find substitutes where now you only have 4? What's your view on being able to accomplish that if all of a sudden you run into, do you have some sort of backup plan?
So I would say we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure it's done, because we want the best for our students. So we would definitely burn the midnight oil if needed to make sure a plan A happen if that is the way that the board goes. I will say it is going to be very difficult with trying to plan that. Like I said, we would be down one administrator. Our office staff is willing to step up and support and help, but an administrator, of course, is definitely what would be needed to help this plan A be successful coming back on January the 11th. Always more time, definitely. I love being consistent in my communication, and the consistent communication has been that we would transition, our parents can transition their learning model at the end of a trimester. And so that students start fresh the next trimester. And the reasoning behind that is all the background things. So a teacher's grade book, trying to, manage grades, finishing units, and so that the model doesn't change. There would be a shift in how teachers are instructing their kids if they're going from high to virtual or vice versa. So those things are, kind of behind the scene things that we would have to figure out, reconfiguring classrooms. So, Mr. Thompson, you are very much correct. That is a very tight time frame, especially when I want to make sure that my staff feels safe. Ordering PPE equipment to make sure that they feel safe, make sure, if a teacher is requesting the plexiglass around her table, that to make sure that is up. Those are things that would not happen in a tight time frame of January 11th to be prepared for. So like I said, I will burn the midnight oil to make sure that there is a plan, but I would definitely feel more comfortable with more time to plan to make sure that I have everything for the staff and the students to feel safe and to be well prepared to come back.
Principal Gill, this is Selena Gary again. Has any consideration or thought been given to delaying this until March 3rd, which you noted is the start of the third trimester?
That would be
certainly give you a little more time to, to iron some of this out, and certainly would give us a little more time to see if some of the COVID numbers are coming down.
I would love for the board to, discuss that. Though we can definitely talk additional options. So for us as an administrative team, those are things that have gone on our proposal to say, like, yes, we would love more time. But NHA has asked that we at least consider this to see if it could happen. And we would definitely try to make it happen, but we would love to stick with consistent communication to transition, during a trimester. And that again would provide the board with the numbers that you want as far as seeing the data of parents that would want to transition, getting more information from our teachers as well.
Ms. Parlay, this is Donna. May I make a comment?
Yes, Attorney Rasco, please.
I was just going to share, I believe that one of your sister NHA schools here in Wake County has indeed done that. And Khaditra, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes the schools run together. But I believe one of the other schools did indeed continue Plan B through the end of the second trimester. Very much for the reasons you all are describing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Attorney Rasco.
Yeah, and with the school, Madam President, if I can speak.
Yes, Khaditra.
With the schools, there's kind of been, a mix. For instance, we have a school that decided on January 11th to have the students return. There's been an instance, as Donna has mentioned as well. So I think that it's just, speaking with your principal and trying to do what's best for your particular, community. As far as this is concerned, there have been schools that have had a few COVID cases, but I'm grateful to say that, I really haven't had to send a lot of information to you guys. So I think that holds true to Principal Gill and her staff, as well as Principal Brown when she was there, as ensuring that mitigation strategies have been put in place for the safety of the students as well as the staff.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Any other conversation? And we do have more time to discuss when we get to the discussion items as well, if you feel the need. All righty, moving right along. Thank you, everyone, for your input. All righty, discussion item A, the revised admission and enrollment policy. And Attorney Rasco, I will ask, do you think it is ready for for the opportunity to vote on it? Has the language been ironed out as you brought to our attention at our
Madam,
last meeting? Is it
Madam
ready?
President and Board, I am thrilled to no end to tell you that all of the issues regarding the language have been addressed, and the red line versions that are in your packet accurately reflect the recommended changes. And I would recommend the board approve the revised policy tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Board members, any comments from you?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr.
I had
Thompson.
a question about the first sentence on page 24 in the purpose.
Page 24 of the packet. Deidre, if you could pull that up for us, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Of the packet or of the PDF? Which one?
The PDF.
The admissions.
There we go.
It was a PDF that I read.
Yeah, but it's page within the packet.
Oh, page 24 within the packet.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Right here?
Yeah. It says to promote the educational stability of students placed in foster care.
That looks
Too
like
many ends.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out if I was like not processing that correctly or something.
No, thank you for pointing that out. That looks like that is a typo.
Typo, yes.
Okay.
I noticed that too, Mr. Thompson. Yes. So they can fix that, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or observations? All righty, very good. All right, any more discussion then about the K-5 operating learning model? Any more discussion about that?
I just wanted to follow up, Madam President, if I can, with
Yes, Ms. Cooper.
Scott was requesting some information. And pretty much in regards to what Attorney Rasco had stated earlier with ensuring that the data that you receive is pretty much in alignment with what's in the Lighting Our Way Forward document.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sent you the email, that is why I included the link to the COVID-19 dashboard from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Sending it to you Friday, by the time we had this conversation today, it was going to be outdated, which is why I sent you all the link. And I can share my screen as to how Wake County looks as far as the cases were concerned. For December 16th, looks like the last update.
Okay, thank you.
So, and then as far as what we were discussing, I think it was the information, Scott, back in September, when it referenced the weekly cases as well as the infection rate and the test positive ratio information. I can tell you, I did just pull that information to make sure it was up to date. And the weekly cases per 100,000 for your particular area sit at 314.10. The infection rate is 1.07 and the test positive ratio is 11.20.
Okay. What I'd like to know is if Wake Forest Charter Academy has had any COVID cases, bringing it closer to home.
So yes, we've had 3 confirmed cases within our building from adults, and 2 confirmed cases with students and 1 student who was on campus.
Okay, I remember you mentioning that earlier and just wanted to know, to make sure that was current. Now, the 2 kids, the 2 students, Can you say the grades?
No, I cannot.
Okay, but 2 for sure. And hope they're all well. Okay, so 3-2, no more. All righty.
Principal
Board, do you
Gill,
have
may
any
I?
other comments to
Madam
discuss while we're
President,
discussing again?
Madam President, may I ask Principal Gill if
Yes,
was
go.
one of those students with the 2 cases? I noticed you said one student was on campus. Was the other a virtual student?
The other 2 were virtual, so 3 total. 2 students were reported to be off campus and 1 on campus.
Okay, 1 on, 1 off. Okay.
Now we have received numerous calls from parents that it's been a possible exposure and they have chosen to quarantine. And so in those cases, we leave it up to, of course, parents to follow up and for them to do, of course, what they feel as safe.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else to discuss, board, before we get to our action items? All right, again, thanks everyone for your input. Action items. A, approval of the revised admission and enrollment policy. I move that we approve the revised admission and enrollment policy.
Madam, it's Marilyn, I second.
Thank you very much. It is removed by Hilda Pillay and seconded by Marilyn Burnett that we approve the revised admission and enrollment policy. Any more discussion on the matter? If not, all those in favor, roll call please, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam President.
Yes,
Hilda
ma'am.
Barley.
Approve.
Hilda Barley approves. Marilyn Burnett.
Approve.
Marilyn Burnett approves. Selena Gary approves. Scott Dable.
Approved.
Scott Dable approves. Willie Thompson.
Approved.
Willie Thompson approves. Madam President, we have a unanimous decision on the approval of the revised admissions and enrollment policy.
Thank you very much, Board and Madam Secretary. Action item B, approval of Wake Forest delivery of instruction method for grades K-5. And Attorney Rasco, can I add Plan A to be specific that we are voting for or against?
Well, as I understand it, NHA is making a recommendation, but it's up to the board which delivery you vote on. I mean, you don't have to formally reject their plan. I mean, based on your discussion, you could either vote to approve Plan A beginning, whatever the date was, they said January 11th. You could vote to continue what you're doing now through whenever. Yeah, so I mean, as an agenda item, I think it's fine. And the motion would be up to the pleasure of the board. I mean, the agenda item statement, I think is fine. It's just whatever motion you want to make.
Okay. Let's see, Board. Approval of the Wake Forest delivery of instruction method for grades K-5. Ooh, I move that we remain in the Wake Forest delivery of instruction as currently being implemented. And K-5, and correct me if I'm mistaken, is virtual, right, Principal Gill?
Currently, all of our students are virtual until January 11th. Our hybrid students will return back to campus with a Plan B. But again, it's open for discussions. We could also talk about moving our timeline to possibly moving forward to a Plan A January 19th. We could move towards something closer and keeping consistent communication closer to the end of the trimester. It's really up to the board what you would like to discuss and consider.
Okay, we've gone through discussion. We're in the approval stage now. So let me rephrase.
Ms. Parlay, this is Donna.
Yes.
May I mention one other option that I'm not sure you all have talked about that I know some people have considered? Most boards also sort of contemplate when is a reasonable time to make the decision? And you kind of talked about it because it's kind of when will you have the information you feel like you need. Another option would be, for example, to continue or to remain in Plan B through a certain date, and that the board will revisit the decision on that date.
Okay, good. I like that. If that's the case, then I move that we remain in Plan B until March 3rd, 2021 for K-5.
So, Madam President,
Yes.
we probably need to make the call on that before March 3rd.
What date would you suggest?
So I don't know, because March 3rd, I think correct me if I'm wrong, Principal Gill, that's the beginning of the third trimester, which would be an ideal start time for any changes.
Right?
Yes, we could look at gathering and ending to start Plan A on March the 3rd, but to end Plan B on March the 2nd, and that so we can collect the data that we would need to, prepare for that ahead of time.
So maybe my recommendation would be, could we do it at the February board meeting and revisit the February board meeting, which would give us probably the better part of a month to implement whatever changes were decided at that point in time.
Well, Scott, would you like to make the motion?
I will do my best.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to proceed in the Plan B with the condition that we revisit the February, I don't know the exact date, the February board meeting.
All right, let's look at the calendar right quick, Ms. Cooper. Will you give us the date of our February meeting? So to be specific.
Yes, give me one moment.
Okay, thank you.
It's the 3rd. The 3rd.
The 3rd of February.
Okay. All right, Scott, restate. Unmute, Scott. Hello. Okay, Scott, unmute.
There, I got you. Sorry. I had my calendar up and it wouldn't let me unmute. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve that we stay in the current Plan B model to be revisited on the February 3rd board meeting.
I second that. It has been moved by Scott Dable and seconded by Hilda Perley that we remain in Plan B and until February 3rd, 2021. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Madam, it's Marilyn. I'm interpreting the motion a little bit differently. That we would proceed with Plan B and we would talk about it again at the February 3rd meeting and decide, at that point when we might change to a different plan.
That's accurate.
See,
Remain in Plan B until March 2nd for grades K through 5, yep. And then reassess at the February 3rd board meeting. That's what I heard.
Yep, to be revisited and reassessed at the February 3rd board meeting.
Yeah, Madam Secretary, do we have you? All in rumbles?
I think I have it. Let me just repeat it.
Okay.
The motion is to proceed with the current instruction method of Plan B, which will be reviewed at the February 3rd board meeting, to recommend changes at that time for consideration of returning to Plan A at the beginning of the 3rd trimester, which is March 3rd.
I would say that you rephrase it to continue rather than proceed, because I think that would be a little confusing, proceeding versus continuing.
That's the point because we are in Plan B.
Yep.
So it's continue with Plan B.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion is to continue with Plan B.
Well, he said current, so yeah, with the current plan, yes. Well, you could just say
Motion
continue with
to
the current plan.
continue with the current Plan B instruction method for grades K to 5, correct?
Mhm.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay.
And I would keep it simple, to be revisited at the February 3rd board meeting.
Yes.
To be revisited
The February 3rd.
at the February 3rd board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
2021. All right. Any other discussion?
Madam President, my question is, initially
Yes.
you guys had given a date. I didn't hear March 2nd within that motion that was just read.
But she did. She included it.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, would you like to read it again?
Okay.
Thank you.
The motion is to continue with the current Plan B instruction method, which will be revisited at the February 3rd, 2021 board meeting, to consider returning or to consider moving to a Plan A instruction method at the beginning of the 3rd trimester on March the 3rd.
Is that okay, Ms. Cooper? You got it?
Yes, I think I was just trying to listen to see when the Plan B was going to stop, but instead you put it where Plan A may start. I think that's the piece that I was kind of.
Right. May possibly start. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
And she could have said March 2nd, because that's when the second trimester ends or first trimester ends. I think
Can we say March 2nd instead of March 3rd?
Ms. Gill, do you think that's better to say? March 2nd, because the second trimester begins March 3rd.
Yes. So
March
we
2nd.
could,
So March 2nd instead of March 3rd for
yes,
the minutes.
sure.
March 2nd, Madam Secretary.
Got it.
All righty, thank you very much. So all those in favor, roll call please, Madam Secretary.
Hilda Parlay.
Approve.
Hilda Parlay approves. Marilyn Burnett.
Approve.
Marilyn Burnett approves. Selena Gary approves. Scott Dable.
Approved?
Scott Dable approves. Willie Thompson.
Approved.
Willie Thompson approves. We have a unanimous decision to approve the motion.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary and board members. Any new business? Any item for the next agenda? Public comment? None. No guidelines, of course. Announcements. I want to wish everybody a safe and set of happy holidays and stay well. And thank you, board. We've had our share of special meetings for sure this year in 2020. Thank you so much for your commitment.
Madam President, one more from me. I just want to say thank you to, I'm not sure if it came from Dr. Brown or Principal Gill, but I did happen to receive a nice Yeti Cup, Wake Forest Charter Academy Yeti Cup in the mail. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Oh, yes, and I do too. It's beautiful.
It is very nice.
Very nice.
Very
Yes,
nice.
I'm glad it was still on the
thank you.
inside.
Yes,
Very
you're
good.
welcome.
It's beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
Have
If
a
not-
wonderful holiday, everyone.
All righty, thank you, and be safe. If no further business, I move that we adjourn.
Okay.
A second.
It has been moved by Hilda Parlay and seconded by Willie Thompson. That no further business, we adjourn. Any more discussion about any matter on the agenda? If not, roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Hilda Parlay,
Approves.
Marilyn Bonnet,
Approve.
Marilyn Bonnet approves, Selena Gary approves, Scott Dable,
Approves?
Scott Dable approves, Willie Thompson,
Approved.
Willie Thompson approves. We have a unanimous decision to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, everyone. This meeting is officially adjourned at
Time
8:05
is,
p.m. 8:05 p.m. Stay safe, everyone.
thank you, you too.
Thank you very much. Au revoir.